All right, you are live on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone and happy afternoon. I hope you're all staying cool today. Today is Wednesday, June 15th, and this is the Human Relations Board for the City of Battle Creek. Grateful and want to give a shout out to Kiona Ackley for leading last month's meeting in my absence. It feels like forever ago and just yesterday. So grateful to everybody who's tried to catch me up. Just as a reminder, we are convening monthly so that we can increase constructive communication among all people in our community and with the city. And so I know that each one of us takes that very seriously, and I'm really appreciative of all of your time and dedication to this important work. So I'm going to ask that our city partners do roll call. And I know that we are not at quorum yet. Hopefully in the next few minutes, we'll have some more folks join in. But
okay. Ms. Spencer? Ms. Wardell?
I'm here, present from Battle Creek.
Thank you. Pastor Hooper?
Yes, Pastor Hooper here from Battle Creek.
Thank you. Kathy Zenda Wilson?
present, reporting remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Commissioner Bonica Herring?
All right.
Present.
From Battle Creek as well?
Yes, remotely from Battle Creek. Sorry.
That's okay. Chris Lucier? Miss Austin?
Looks like she's just arriving.
Okay, I'll come back to her. Mr. Cotton?
So I'm recording remotely live from Battle Creek.
Thank you so much. Miss Austin?
Amira Austin, live from Grand Rapids.
Thank you. Jennifer Greger? Derek Freeman? Kiona Ackley?
So
Do I
you want to
need
run for city
remotely from Battle Creek?
So are you a
Thank
registered
you.
voter?
Miss Kipp?
Do you have your ID?
Present, attending remotely from Battle Creek.
Thank you.
So what do you want?
Miss Lastly?
Do you want to run for mayor?
Present,
You wanna run for
remote
at-large, or
from
do you wanna run
Springfield.
for your ward?
We're getting some feedback on my end. I believe it's like
And as soon as I go silent, you probably won't, since this is from my office. So we're trying to keep it down as much as we can while I do goals. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it'll probably go away in just a moment. So let me check for your quorum. One moment.
Yeah, we also have Chris Lucier and Dina Spencer who just arrived, Alicia.
Excellent. Chris Lucier
Present, remote from Battle Creek.
and Dina Spencer.
Present, remote from Battle Creek.
Perfect. We have a quorum and you are all set.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to give the board just a couple minutes to review last month's minutes and then ask for a approval or a motion to approve. I know that you just got them today, and most people have been at work, so I don't expect that you would have reviewed them. So I'll give you just a couple minutes of silence to do that, and then when someone is ready, they can go ahead and make a motion or make any recommendations for changes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Herring.
Second.
And I know Alicia was going to look into it, but can we just ask, would Jeff be an honor? Or did we just want to let her do her thing?
No, I can ask. Jeff, were you present last month?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then we've got a motion and support for the minutes. All in favor, say aye or do a thumbs up on your screen.
Aye.
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 Opposed, same? Okay, thank you. I think we're good then. All right, thank you all. And again, a thanks to Kiona for leading last month's meeting. Do we have any communications?
There were none besides what you had provided with your agenda.
Okay, thank you. Committee reports as well? I don't believe there are any.
No, there are none.
Okay, so old business, the equity audit, you all should have received also in your packets, the African American Collaborative letter that came from our CEO of the local Urban League. I'll give you again a couple seconds to review this and then just ask for any reactions or response. And it would have been in your packet that you received earlier today. Welcome, Jen. We're taking a minute just to review the letter from Kyra that came in your packet today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jen, are you reporting from the city of Battle Creek remotely?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Just another minute or so. All right, before we get into discussion, Rebecca, is there anything that you'd want to share as it relates to the receipt of this letter? Was it requested or?
Yes, remember there was some questions that were shared from the Human Relations Board to the African American Collaborative. And I know that everybody's schedule is busy. And so, they apologize, but then in response to that, this is what was provided by Kyra and the other members of the African American Collaborative, which included Ellie Johnson, of course, Kyra, Dr. Nakia Bayless, and Dr. Alicia Johnson.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that reminder too. There's so many moving parts. So I do recall our conversation was specific to asking the African American Collaborative what prompted their request for this audit. And so this was in response to that. Jeffrey?
I don't see the package you're talking about. It came through an email today?
Yes, it would have come along with the minutes to your email from, I think it was Becca that sent these out. Yes, it would have been Rebecca Forbes.
Jeff, mine was in my spam folder.
Oh, let me check that.
Jeff, I also attached them to the calendar invitation, so there should be in two places. I'm not sure if you can find it there as well.
Thanks, Becca. So the same place you went to get the Zoom link, it should be in there as well. Thank you for doing that also.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see it attached to the Zoom meeting either. I'm looking at it right now, but I don't.
And you don't see a separate email from Becca?
Well, it should be a PDF. It should just be a little PDF symbol within the calendar invite, Jeff. And if you click on that, you should see the agenda and all of the packet.
Yeah, it's not in there. No, not on my end. I don't see it. Let me see.
I had to scroll up through that message where it showed up. I had to scroll up and find it. Like I had to go up 2 or 3 because there was responses to it.
See the meeting link and all of that. Let me see.
We'll make sure that you have it.
I'll find it. Go ahead. Y'all go there though. I'll find it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I'm just curious from the board's perspective, if they feel that this response gets us a better understanding of the request for the audit in the first place and what prompted the suggestion from the group to the city. And is there any feedback you'd want to provide the collaborative?
I mean, it struck me that the letter seemed very positive about the report. That after reading it, it seems like it had met some of their expectations of what the audit would do, and felt like it was really responsive to the concerns that led them to request it. So they seemed appreciative.
Yeah,
that was my take.
Thank you, Chris. Any other thoughts or reactions?
I agree. I think that they're looking at this whole thing as a positive note, taking steps that we're actually paying attention.
Yeah, my reaction was that they really they really felt like it had accomplished a lot, and that it was right along the lines of all the issues that they had was concerned about, like the involvement, community involvement, police efforts, and things like that. So I thought it was a very good presentation that they gave us, and realizing that the audit kind of met their needs. In turn, help the community. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. Okay, this is not a closed issue, so I think we need to, continue with our discussions. And if there are things we'd like to engage the collaborative around further, feel free to email myself or Rebecca, and we can make sure that that happens. Especially for those of you who might be folks who need some time to process and you want to read it again after this meeting or after today and just kind of take it in. And if that leaves you with any questions, I believe the dialogue is very open, so we can make sure that that happens. Next, I want to take us to the development of some survey questions for the CRB specifically. And just to provide, Rebecca, you had unmuted, yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to also say that MGT will be doing a workshop with the City Commission on June the 21st, and any certainly Human Relations Board member that would like to attend, please feel free to do so.
Thank you very much. And that's at 5:30.
Yes.
In chambers. Yep. Okay. So please, we'd love to have any of you participate and at least attend if you can. And so next, what I've from a debrief that I got from last month's meeting was a discussion about getting out and surveying the community as it relates to the Citizens Review Board, which is a recommendation based on the audit, but was also, as all of us know, proposed by a group led by Carrie Whitfield, and we had been in negotiations around some of the suggested just the suggestions we had for the proposal itself. It feels as though it has stalled in their camp. We haven't heard from them in a long time, but that does not mean that we need to stop in our progress to try and push forward to the commission what a CRB might look like. I also appreciate that folks do not feel that there was adequate enough engagement from the community as it relates to the audit itself with MGT. And so the intent there is to go out and try and receive additional feedback. And so I went back to the full audit report to pull up what questions they asked as they were doing the actual audit, and thought it might be a really good place for us to start. It was an addendum to the actual report for those of you who've read it in full. I know that there was interest in going live to some of the events we had last week's Cereal City, or not Cereal City, the longest breakfast table, as well as this weekend's Juneteenth events. And so I know that we've missed last Saturday. I don't know if anything happened. I didn't get any emails with question recommendations or anything. So I thought I'd spend the bulk of our time today on us finalizing some questions and methodology for how we want to actually get that, that feedback. So did anybody do anything last weekend that they garnered any feedback that they want to share right now before I share my screen? No? Okay. All right. So I'm going to just pull up these questions. There's only 2 slides here. So from the back of their report, there were 8 questions. What community activities engagement by BCPD have you found impactful? In what areas could BCPD improve its outreach? What media option do you use to access police activity? Are there other sources for information that you would like the police to utilize? Second set of questions, what BCPD youth initiatives and engagement activities are you aware of? How can BCPD improve youth engagement interactions? In what ways could BCPD be more transparent with the community? And what recommendations do you have to improve police-community relations? So these are the questions. I'm going to open it up for dialogue. Okay, Bonika, I see your hand up. So Commissioner Herring, please.
Hey, so who is MGT and whose questions are these?
So MGT is the consultant.
Are these ones that were in for us to ask?
These are the questions that were included in the community engagement that MGT, which is the consultant that led the equity audit, these are the ones they used when they actually engaged the community.
Okay, got you. I was confused if that was the questions we were going to ask out in public.
So the question I think that we need to ask ourselves is, so as my day job is as a researcher, so I do a lot of asking people questions. And I know that there is, it's a big heavy lift for people who have to go out and do this in the community and try and gather the information and bring it back and then process it. So I do want us to talk about our process at some point, but before we get to process, I really thought we could start with these questions and see, do any of these feel relevant to us, to you? So then we could compare these to the responses they got that were included in the report. And it gives us further information. Or do we want to start with completely different questions? So that's the reason that I'm sharing them right now. And I can't see everybody. So if you want to contribute something, please just unmute and speak, because I won't be able to see your hand with the questions up on the screen.
I'm not sure what you're asking us for.
Yeah, would any of these questions ones that we'd want to lift up for a survey that we would do with the community to get more information about a potential CRB, Citizen Review Board?
So these are questions are in alignment with the desire to start a Citizen Review Board. I don't understand why we would ask these questions in relation to starting the Citizen Review Board.
Yeah, they're not specific to Citizens Review Board. These are the ones that MGT used in discussing police community relations. So these may not be the questions we want to ask, but I thought it was a good place for us to start and see if there was anything that seemed relevant and worth lifting up. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Are you saying which one of these questions would we want to ask the community if we were in that space of? It's a couple of them. I mean, that I don't know if that would be the first step, asking these questions. I believe that would be what the Citizens Review Board itself tackles, these questions and these issues. I think we jumping the gun a little bit.
So Jeff,
that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So where do you think that we should start? Because based on what I've been told from the last meeting, there was a desire to go out and talk to the community about the Citizens Review Board. And so I'm just trying to give us
I would say, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would suggest the first step be maybe we spend a little time to develop a pamphlet and some type of social media information explaining exactly what a Citizens Review Board is and why we see there's a need for one in Battle Creek and the process to organizing one. I think that would be a good first step and something to get interactive with the community about.
Well, I thought we were looking to see if the community felt there was a need for a citizens review board.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we got to educate them on what a citizens review board is first and foremost. Like, I believe that would be some healthy interaction in the process of having these meetings with the community about a citizens review board, and maybe even have a panel discussing exactly what a citizens review board is and things of that nature. Have some pamphlets to give them. In that process, we will see their responses as far as what they think about a citizens review board, maybe even find some potential clients to serve on it.
Kiona, you have your hand up. Thank you for that, Jeff.
Thank you for that, Jeff. So I wonder if we can take a step back. I know during the last meeting, Bonica had raised a couple questions that she put out there for consideration for the survey. And I believe those were some good questions to start with. Well, from there, what we had asked is for anyone else on the board to send questions to us, and we would take all of those questions, kind of narrow them down to 3 to 5 after the suggestion from the board saying we should stick to a limit of no more than 5. And then Derek was going to create that, the code for those questions. And I believe hers kind of started off as like, what is a citizen, or what does a citizen review board look like to you? And kind of like starting pretty much at the very beginning. And I don't know, Bonica or Commissioner Herring, if you can recall what those questions are and didn't mind, I'm just quickly going over those.
Okay, so I don't remember the questions. Once I put it out there, it's kind of out there. I'm not sure. I know it was something along that lines, but I definitely agree with Jeff. We need to let people know what a citizens review board is before we ask them if they think we need one.
So assuming that we could put together a brief description of what a CRB is, the intent though is to still go out and gather community feedback and input about one, right? So that's the step back that Kiona's asking for, is that is the intent here. If that's the case, and we want to keep it to 3 to 5 questions so that it's minimal. And one of the questions is, what does a CRB look like to you? I wonder if that is like a question that has multiple options that they would choose from instead of it being an open-ended question. I'm not sure how I would answer it if I didn't know anything about a CRB. And it really kind of gets us all over the board potentially. So is there like a drop down that people would then, say it's of the many different models there are out there, are there options that we give them once we lay the framework for it? Jeffrey?
I believe that would be a fun way to educate them on what the answers are. Make a quiz, Google Forms, you can make quizzes and as well as sign up sheets and things of that nature. So if we make it fun and make it real relative to the city of Battle Creek, those 5, however few questions, right? The answer will be one of those options. So in the process of them taking that quiz, they would see that option and they would understand, oh, this is the answer. This is what a citizens review board is. So that, I think that could be a fun way to do it, giving them multiple options. Or we can just directly share the information as far and as wide as possible of the specifics of a citizens review board, and then create some type of engagement, maybe multiple engagements, sharing that information, dispersing that information with the community, and getting some feedback from them at the same time, as far as what they feel about if we need one and would they like to participate.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. So by way of how we ask that first question could get us at, this is what a CRB is, and minimize our need to really give a lot of detail to folks, is the way I interpreted what Jeff was just suggesting. What other questions do folks have that they think about when we think about trying to propose to the commission, the full commission, that they explore, consider the development of a citizens review board? What else do we want to know from the community before we take that step?
My answer will be everything.
So what does a CRB look like to you? Is another important question. Do you feel one is necessary? Or if it were asked in a different way, do you feel that this would improve community and police relations?
I like that part of what you just said, Kathy. I feel like if we ask community members, hey, do you think that a separate board to handle concerns and engagement with the Battle Creek Police Department was in place, would that help interactions between our community and our Battle Creek Police Department? I'm ready to say some kind of wording around that to make sure we're talking about not only addressing the complaints, but also, you know, just the concern for our community and also engagement with our policemen or our Battle Creek Police Department for positive purposes, as well as addressing community concerns. I think it's important to add in the positive engagement piece as well as just the concerns and complaints.
I agree 100%.
All right, thank you. And then Deputy Chief, you have your hand up?
Yes, I know. One of the thoughts that I have is what qualifications will members of a citizen review board have? What training, what things should they see or go through? Use of force, patrol driving tactics. There's many things out there. What should they be exposed to in order to participate on the board?
Thank you.
I think our paperwork from before, I think our paperwork from before said that there would be training that listed the members that would possibly be on the board and the types of people that would be on the board. But you may not have received that, Deputy Chief.
Yeah, that was part of the proposal that was submitted. There was a recommendation for what could be the type of training or exposure that folks would have, as well as qualifications.
Thank you. I'll take a look.
Yeah. But I think your question still has merit, Deputy Chief. I think the idea of asking the community, I mean, because we have those written based on a committee that put together that proposal. But if what we're seeking is some either validation or feedback from the community about whether or not that's what they also believe is appropriate for somebody to serve in that capacity, it could be valuable information for us.
I agree. Thank you.
I feel like if we provide some of that context, it might help. I mean, part of why I've been pretty quiet through this is because I'm not quite sure where we're going with this. I wasn't quite sure last month or last time we met either. So I've been just sort of listening. And I wonder if tying it to that thing that we were deliberating on earlier this year or late last year, I can't remember which was basically, there has been a proposal to do a citizens review board, and we were sort of talking about, a variety of issues related to, was there enough public engagement around that? Some folks seem to think that it didn't go far enough. Some seem to think that it wasn't, I don't know what her name was, that it felt like it wasn't necessary, but that was certainly an option. And then I know we looked at a lot of different ideas of how those boards can be set up, comprised, and that kind of thing. I just wanted putting that piece up there. Hey, there's been a proposal for review board. Some folks feel like it doesn't go far enough. Some folks feel like maybe we don't need one. And then, so we've got some questions, and like,
yeah.
If we framed it that way, that it's focused on a specific issue in front of our community, it might create some investment in the question. So folks know we're not just gathering information for information's sake. There's an actual proposal to move forward, and maybe folks want to get interested in understanding whether, well, what is that proposal? And, I don't know. So then asking some of the questions that sort of feeds into that.
Yeah, I like that, Chris. I also think that it's two-pronged, right? So that we've got the proposal that was submitted by a community group. We also have the recommendation from the equity audit that the city conducted. And both are saying that this is something that we should pursue. And so we want input on whether or not that is, what they feel is necessary or the appropriate thing. Commissioner Herring?
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to respond to Deputy Chief Gilliam. I'm not sure of the list of recommendations for the people that were on the Citizens Review Board, but I definitely think the Citizens Police Academy is one program that the people on that board would need to go through, and that I can recommend because I've been through that program. It offers a different perspective of actually the engagement between the police and the community, and kind of a behind the scenes kind of look. And also, I feel like they should go through some kind of equity and diversity and inclusion training, which we have a lot going on in our city. And I think that would also be something that would be very positive. I just wanted to throw that in there. It was a couple comments that happened after that. So sorry to take us back.
All right, thank you for that. And I from the city, I don't know who that person is that's in the waiting room. I know we've got a phone number on there, but I just wanted to alert somebody to the fact that popped up on my screen. Jeffrey, could you please share what you had your hand up for a second there?
No, I was, excuse me, I was confused on where the tie-in was at between this our Citizens Review Board conversation and the equity audit. So I think you just said that they recommended that we have a Citizens Review Board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I know that we get a lot of things thrown at us, but I would strongly recommend you all received the full equity audit report from MGT. It's a good read. I think it's important. I think it fills in some of those gaps for us. I still have some questions about that, and this is an opportunity for me to ask a couple of them so that as you're reviewing it, maybe these things will also come to you. I think one of them is something that Chris lifted up, and I want to go back to those questions to finalize that in a minute. But since this has come up about the equity audit specifically, when I look at the data that is in there, what's missing for me is our city's demographic information compared to what the city staff is. And so if there's an opportunity to provide that so that we can see, because one of the recommendations is that we make sure that city staff is as representative of the community as possible. But right now that the report itself doesn't show us what that looks like. And it would be awesome if we could do it by role and by department, just so that we can see, if there is, what is the gap we're trying to fill here, I guess is my ultimate question. And then there were some other recommendations that were on here that I do think that we might want to provide some more feedback. So if you haven't had a chance to review it yet, what I want to do is suggest that our next meeting really be focused on bringing questions to Rebecca for MGT based on our review of that full report. And so if you need it again, let us know. It came out, I think in April, it was shared with us because I know I had it before I left for Europe. So, okay. So back to now we've set the context that we know that we both have a community group that's interested in the CRB. We've got an equity audit that is suggesting that this is an appropriate approach. We want to get community feedback. I like the idea that what does a CRB look like to you? And we give them some options based on what the different approaches are that are out there, right? So that at least we're getting some information from the community about the format's not the right word, but I know that there are different approaches to these. And Jeff, I see your hand up to you in a second. And then the question around, do you feel this would improve community and police relations? And to Commissioner Herring's point, that it is appropriate that we make sure that people know that this is not just for complaints. This is for concerns and for things that are going well, right? So that it's positive and potentially challenging things. And then what qualifications or training should CRB be exposed to in order to serve? And maybe again, that's a drop-down list. And Commissioner Herring has provided a couple: Citizens Police Academy, as well as some sort of equity training. So that's what I have so far. I think that's a really good start. And then Jeffrey, your hand was up.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I believe that we just have to create the engagements. I don't know how y'all want to go about that, but I believe that would be like number one on the list is creating the engagements and exactly where we're going to target in these communities, so we can make sure that all the people, whatever we come up with and formulate as far as information we want to share, we just making sure that it can get to as many people as possible.
Yeah, and so for that, to that point, it would be my recommendation to the group that we consider this being a digital survey with a QR code, so that if people wanted to have it go and set up a table somewhere, they could still talk to folks about it, but their responses would come in digitally through a QR code that they could actually scan. That also gives us an opportunity to share that with our community partners and make a request of them that they share it with the folks that they serve or that they engage. And it could be that, those anchor institutions that we all, that many of us in the community rely on, being Burma Center, BOSIS, the Urban League, that's a place, but it can't be the only place, right? Because we know that they don't engage everyone. So if we were to take this kind of phased approach where we create and finalize the questions, I know that the city has access to a SurveyMonkey account that we could use. So it would be easy enough to set it up in that way. Then our dissemination plan is what we really need to decide on. And so I've suggested that we have 3 community partners that we could go to, but that those not be the only ones. Who else has recommendations for who we could partner with to get this distributed? In addition to us, there's nothing stopping us from doing it as well as HRB members, but are there specific groups that you would suggest or approaches? And just unmute yourself if you have ideas.
BOSIS would be one that I would recommend.
I say everybody. I would say all the organizations that's functioning in the city. It could be a partnership opportunity for the city to get us all on one page. Just like, let's say it was a Stop the Violence movement or something like that, right? Like I won't say that we might need to prevent the violence movement. The violence isn't going too crazy right now, but we would want, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm messing with the camera. We would want everybody in the city to be involved in that. We would want to have like some type of media that everybody would share collectively as concerned citizens of Battle Creek. So, excuse me. I think we should get everybody involved and get everybody to participate in collecting this community response to this.
Thanks, Jeff. So one way to do that then, right, is to ask the city, once we have the survey complete, is to create a social media post that we could all share and we encourage others to share. So we can get it out there virtually in that way. When you do your surveys, Rebecca, of the entire city, is that done typically through like water bills? I mean, have you ever done anything of this scale where you're trying to gather information from as many people as possible?
So you asked that question in a very interesting week, because this is the last week of our National Community Survey that we do every 3 years. So in that instance, we have, our consultant for that survey sends it directly to, a random sampling. And then we make it available to everybody through, we put it in the shopper, we do our social media channels, we put it, in a variety of places. So it really does depends. Now, our community survey is one that we get out to everybody. So we probably do a lot of extra that we wouldn't do with normal, with kind of regular surveys. However, that is correct. That's how we usually handle it, whether it's water bill, the shopper, electronic. We have Textedly, so links can be sent through Textedly and those options.
And would those all be available to us depending on how this group decides to go what direction?
Yes, the only one that's in question is the water bill, because we take those in advance. So many messages are already planned for the months that the water bill, for the cycle of water bills. Not to say that I don't know what would be available. I'm just saying that is always the one that we have to kind of get into the schedule of the water bills.
Okay. How much time do you think, and this is just a question for everyone, that we should keep a survey like this open to feel that, is it based on the number of responses we get, or is it based on a certain set of time that we want to do this? Do we want to take a month and say whatever responses we get in a month, we're going to use that data and try and process it and understand it so we can move forward? Or is there a certain number that we hope to reach or percentage of the community?
I personally feel like 30 days is enough time if we work with our community partners and get it out into the communities. Partners like TRHT and VOSIS and Burma Center and the different churches and community centers that we have going on. I think that would give us some good data on what we can do, because they have a lot of people that go through those buildings each day. And if they could grab those people with a quick QR survey, I think that's definitely to our benefit. But I think 30 days is more than enough time, because this is something I feel like we don't need to wait too long on this, because this is a concern right now and something we can address ASAP.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other thoughts on that timeline? 30 days once we launch, obviously not 30 days from now. Jeff?
Yeah, excuse me. I think it would be better if we collect that data based on how many responses that we get. In order to measure the community's response properly, I think we need a certain amount. We need to agree on how many different people from the community, how many community members responses that we need in order to make a proper measurement if we're really trying to collect some data. Now, as far as, I guess inviting them and try to get them involved in the things, I would say we can do that quickly. But I don't think it's something that we need to rush. I personally don't think our city is in such dire states as a lot of other people do. I think we could take our time with things like this, especially when it's dealing with something as serious as creating a group of community members that are going to have direct interactions with city officials and city leaders and police officers and responding to the things that community members experience. I think we should take our time with that and make sure that we give the people some time to come in and voice their opinion and participate.
Thanks, Jeff. I have a question to Chris and Rebecca from the city's perspective. When you think about having an adequate sampling of our residency, like, is there a magic number that we'd look for, a percentage that would help us feel confident that we had heard from folks?
Chris, go ahead if you have a response, and then.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not a professional around doing that kind of, scientific studies and such, but we do a survey for community development for the consolidated plan, and we just try to make sure we disaggregate the data so we're aware of what kinds of biases. We collect lots of on the folks filling out the survey, so we're able to account for biases and ensure that we're getting enough information from various demographic groups to be able to actually talk about needs. So I don't know percentage-wise, we get about 1,000 respondents each time we do that. So out of 52,000 folks, so I don't know what would be the case in this instance.
All right, thanks, Chris. And I would echo what he said. We have not, in my tenure in local government, it's not so much the number of respondents. We usually go by a percentage. So Chris was saying 1,000 out of 52,000. For our national community survey, if we get over 20% or more, that's considered a strong sample for a community our size. But we don't always get that. And there's a variety of reasons why we don't. We've been told that our community is survey tired because we survey all the time. That can impact it. Certainly a global pandemic can impact it. How you deliver the survey can impact it, because while we love to use our electronic platforms and social media and et cetera, we still have a substantial amount of our population that prefers to get things in the mail. And so we try to meet that need through the water bills. Sometimes we'll do a direct mailing postcard, or other times we'll try to use the shopper, which is kind of a hard copy media. And that it always changes in how people prefer to get information and then getting them to respond.
All right.
I would say 20% is really high. it makes sense for that survey because that's 20% of respondents, right? People that you approach directly about that particular survey. Like I would say like doing a general mailing through water bill will probably have a much lower response rate. Just simply because it's not as like targeted or intentional. I'd be surprised. I would just throw out there like the standard for like consolidated plans, and that these are, you know, for federal grants where you're trying to get some community engagement or input on what you're doing. Like 1,000 is more than any community I've ever interacted with. So it's like, that's a lot. Like oftentimes the processes just tend to be less formal, and there isn't an expectation that they, you know, be a scientifically study. So I, you know, just want to be careful about us holding ourselves to that standard. So we don't have an enormous budget or anything. You know.
Well, and I think that that's fair. And that community survey does go out to everybody, but I'm with you, Chris. If we get 1,000 respondents, that feels like a success, even though for our population, 52,000, that's like 2%.
Yeah. So I know I'm going to look at the time right now. We have 14 minutes left in our meeting and still some other things to cover. I think both of you bring up something really, I think, critical for me. And Chris lifted up that we need to collect demographic data. So I think a part of this is really saying, you know, part of our threshold needs to be to make sure that we've got a representative sample. So while we might shoot for a specific number, it is also critically important that we have a representative sample that looks like what our city's demographics are. And so we need to use that as well. I know that Jeff had his hand up again and the deputy chief did, and then we're going to move on because I think we've got enough to move us forward to develop a survey. Jeff, you don't have your hand up anymore? Okay, good. All right, deputy chief, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Nope, everything was said that I was going to talk about with the results of the surveys. I did want to add that we run the Citizens Police Academy once a year. We do have one coming up this fall.
Yeah. Okay, and I do want to make sure that we're lifting up that we need to make sure that this is available in multiple languages, and that we have it available not just electronically, but that we do offer paper samples for people who want to do that. So just to make sure that that's part of the record. And so if you have questions that you come up with after we're done with this meeting, please feel free to email myself and Rebecca. I will work with her on getting something finalized. And Rebecca, is it okay for us to send it to the HRB once we have a draft and get response by email?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's plan on that. And if for some reason things really take longer than we expect and we have to bring them back to this meeting in July, we can do that. But let's plan on it being something that we do in the in-between space so that we can keep this moving. So thank you very much for that very healthy conversation. Next we're moving to new business, and on the agenda is the equity audit documents. Is that really just the report that I was talking about, Rebecca? Was there anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, and there was just those one pagers. That's kind of a summary of both. It was really informational purposes.
Okay, thank you. And so for those of you who have your packets, I printed mine. It is the two-sided one. The one has the Human Resource Systems Action Plan, and the back is the Police Community Relations Action Plan. If you have questions related to this, you can follow up by email. One of the questions I had was on the recommendation to embed a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion into the fabric of all city Battle Creek departments. I would like to make sure that that elected officials are also included in that leadership group that is being suggested. And then again, I had already referenced the need for data around city staff that I think will be helpful from a demographic standpoint. And then on the police community relations, one question I had around create and implement a progress monitoring protocol to track fidelity and effectiveness of training plans. I want to know, it isn't clear to me here if that is PD led or if there are others that are involved in that so that there's some oversight and accountability that gets beyond the police department. So any questions you have like that, I think those will all be helpful for Rebecca and the group that's working on this so that we can get as definitive as possible on those action plans as we need to. I do see that. All right, so Chris has offered to share with us the community development survey, which has extensive demographics section, provide an example of ways we can collect it. Thank you, Chris. That'll be really helpful. Okay, and then our July meeting, do we have a date for that? It's the third Am I correct?
That would be July 20th.
Okay.
And Commissioner, if I might add, sometimes this board has taken July off. July is a big vacation month and et cetera. So it was really just to make sure that does the group feel we should have a July and August meeting, or what would they like to do? Because yes, we can continue the schedule. Summers are sometimes difficult.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, so by just a show of a thumbs up from your reactions, I want to ask this question. Would we like to take a break in July? I see one person saying yes, two people saying yes. Others, I assume, still want to meet. Deputy Chief would like to take July off. So I'm all for trying to take a break when we can, but it feels like we've got some momentum with this survey. So, and it doesn't look like others are concerned about meeting in July. So let's plan on meeting in July. We will decide then whether or not we want to take a break in August so that we at least give ourselves a break over the summer. But let's meet on July 20th with the focus of us really trying to move forward with the CRB. So thank you for that. Now, community points of interest. This is just an open discussion. Is there anything you're hearing out in the community you would like the city to know about, or you want us as a board to know about that we might want to be paying attention to?
So a lot of folks have talked about, or I know that Juneteenth is on folks' minds probably already. Some may not know that there's a health equity fair that's being put on by TRHT that morning at the same location as Juneteenth. It's in Claude Evans Park. And really it's a focus on health equity, which I know the city will be there promoting its lead abatement programs and talking about how that affects health equity. A lot of the places where folks have the highest chances to get lead poisoned are also places where we have the highest concentrations of African-American and Hispanic and Latino families. So that's a concern. We've got lots of resources to address that problem, and we'll be promoting them there.
All right, thank you, Chris. Jeff?
Thank you, Chris. I too just wanted to lift up. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, no, go ahead, Kiana.
Okay, Kiana, you, and then we'll go to Jeff. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry about that. I too just wanted to lift up the 2-day Claude Evans events that'll be taking place starting this Friday through the evening of Saturday. A lot of activities and events for the kids to do. On Friday being kickball, and then ending with a cool little movie. And then Saturday, the 3-on-3, which puts me in mind of the Gus Macker. So I'm really hoping folks will really just show up, and then a ton of different vendors that'll be out there, along with everything that Chris touched on as well with the health aspect. And I also received a lot of great feedback from community members, a lot of my customers here at the store, saying how the breakfast table, everything, the way it was executed, the volunteers, the booth, the informational booths. I know Commissioner Herring booth was lifted, and a couple others, that how excited they were about how well it turned out. And then also there's an event, I know a Pride event that was lifted, which Ms. Spencer may be better at speaking to that, but a couple community members came in and lifted that up as well. I'm gonna go back on mute because my little guy.
Thanks, Kiana. I'm gonna go to Jeff, and then we can go to you, Dina, in case you have anything you want to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I was starting a violence intervention project that we putting together with some different community partners. We're trying to have some panel discussions on youth violence in the city. I, for one, believe that the violence level in Battle Creek is not as bad as the rest of America. So I think we need to give some credit to that and not just paint the picture as such a dark place. Deputy Chief, I think that might be something me and you might need to talk about. We're trying to put together a dinner for July 29th at New Level Sports. And I'm also trying to reproduce this violence intervention project in multiple cities in Michigan. And we started a fundraiser for it. So if you want to text 44321, text Big Homies to 44321, you can make a donation to that.
Sounds good, Jeff. I'll get with you on that date.
All right.
Yeah. And then Dina?
Hello. So I apologize. My dogs are barking right when it's time for me to talk. So we have our Pride Festival coming up in July, and I want to make sure that I'm speaking to the right thing, only because there was a bit of a feedback right when Kiona was sharing that. But if anybody would like to be a vendor, there's still spots to do that. You can just email me and I can get the information to you, or you can find it on our website, and you can be a vendor to sell things. You can be a vendor to hand out information, just showcase your organization, all different things like that. So we'll have lots of food. We're gonna have food trucks, music, dancing. We have a band coming, drag queens, of course, vendors. We've got an application, fingers crossed, into the state to have a beer tent this year. Provided that all comes through, we'll have that. I have no word on that yet. So things are coming. I feel like it's barreling down on me like a weight of bricks right now, because I have a month left and I'm nowhere near ready, but it's coming. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved if you want to. We need volunteers like crazy. If you want to walk in the parade, I mean, there's lots of different opportunities. So just reach out if you'd like to. And the parade is July 15th, which is a Friday night. And then the festival is Saturday, the 16th from 1 to 7 at Lila Arboretum. And then we will wrap up the weekend on the 17th with a candlelight vigil at Sojourner Truth Monument, just to honor those in our community that have died before us, either by violence or at their own hand for whatever reason. And then we also have a fun event on Thursday, and Rebecca Fleury participated in this last year. I know Susan Baldwin did in years past, called LGBTQ&A. And it's just a fun trivia game, and you just answer questions and win prizes as you go, kind of Jeopardy kind of style sort of game. It's really fun, but we're going to do that in person this year at the Miller Stone building. So let me know what you want to do and how you want to do it, and I'll get you in touch with myself or the right people to do that.
I love that we're looking at all the ways that we are celebrating everyone in our community, starting this weekend with Juneteenth, and then, you know, continuing with our Pride Month in July. So thank you all for everything you do. I know that I'm an employee of the Upjohn Institute, and this is the first time they've ever closed and honored Juneteenth as a holiday. So no work is being done on Monday. And that's progress. I think we're doing a great job. And I want to lift the city up for its flag flying policy, and the fact that we're going to have a couple flags up at Claude Evans this first time. I just heard the city is also closed on Monday. Good to know. And then we will hopefully have the pride flag flying again in July over City Hall. So stay tuned on that. All right. Do we have any? Thank you all for that. I want to open it up for any public comment that we have. Chad, do we have any callers?
I may have a caller for public comment. Caller with the last 4 digits of 1884. Can you *6 to unmute yourself if you have public comment?
I do, and thank you very much. And guess who, folks? This is Kathy Antea calling in. Thank you so much for letting me listen. Thank you so much for letting me listen. I really appreciate your deliberations. And I just want to encourage you to look in the last few years at some of the work that's already been done by the Citizens Review Board. Because of my role as a NAACP board member, I've been privy to some of the discussions I know that have been happening. And I know that the city and the police department and the NAACP have been involved. While I don't necessarily agree that it's been the most transparent or publicly accessible process, they have done quite a bit of work on that. And I would really encourage the board, I wasn't quite sure if all y'all knew about that or not, but there's an extensive history of some of the work that they've done. And while we may end up throwing that all out the window, and that would be cool too, if that's what the community wants, I think that may deserve some analysis, because it was this whole Citizens Review Board was instigated by some horrendous things that happened a few years ago. So I would urge all of you to look into that. Thank you so much for all your time and your dedication to our community, folks. I really appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Kathy. And just to reinforce that we've spent a lot of time as a human relations board looking at that proposal. And so we do, I believe, see it as a foundation for us moving forward. And when I suggested earlier in the meeting that it installed is that we have had some negotiation about some things that need to be changed, and it just hasn't moved beyond that point. So we look forward to moving forward in whatever way that looks. I think having more community input is going to be better for everybody as well. So thank you for that, Kathy, and thank you for your service to the NAACP as well. And always showing up to our meetings. It is 5:01. I'm going to conclude the meeting and adjourn us, and thank everyone so much for your consistent support. Look forward to some emails in between. And for those of you who can attend, we will see